I, 24F, feel like I have been wrong about everything that my husband, 25M, has been doing every Saturday night. https://www.reddit.com/r/relationship_advice/comment/10x7ne/comment/j7s9mqg/ update to my last post about this topic. So, where to even begin? It has been a few days since I last updated all of you. A couple things have happened and I wanted to wait until after Saturday to post anything. Though that got a little delayed. I got a lot of private DMs asking how I was doing or anxiously waiting for an update. And while I appreciate the sentiment, it did get annoying feeling even more pressured than I was already feeling about it all, and constantly get DMs asking what I was doing or how this or that went. Or if I did this or that. I know you all meant well, but it definitely didn't help after a certain point and just got annoying and pressuring. Anyway, I guess I'll start at the beginning, which was Thursday all the way to Sunday. I'll try to keep it as brief as I think it can be without actually leaving something out. So, Thursday came along and I went to work like usual. People asked if I can drive, and I can, though my husband takes the car for work always, as he can be pretty far away depending on what construction site he is working at. So I take the bike to my job. It is about 20 minutes, so nothing special or anything. I got home, relaxed for about 30 minutes before I decided to call my husband's former drinking group and see if they knew anything more than I did about his new friend group or why he barely drinks with them anymore. Probably about every 2 to 3 months he has gone out with them instead of his other friend group. Though this was always on Fridays and not Saturdays. One of the guys told me that my husband told them he just didn't have time to drink with both of them and he wanted to go with his new group drinking more than with the old one he always went with. So nothing of importance there. They also said they didn't know the 3 guys, as they had been with a bunch of other guys who began sitting at their table acting pretty. He said it was kinda irritating, but they were kinda themselves at the time, so they didn't mind too much. They didn't see any of the guys after that. Especially the 3 my husband is always drinking with now. He said they would probably recognize them, especially if my husband was with them. After that the day went as normal until Friday came along, and after work I went to the marked spot that was on the navigation app of my husband. For anyone who was worried I didn't go alone, I went with 2 of my best GFs and told them my husband could have potentially hidden something around here in the forest as a little game for Valentine's Day. And that my Valentine's gift could be on the marked spot he showed me. Of course this wasn't fully the truth, but I couldn't think of anything better to tell them. They found it odd, but they went along with it purely because it would be seen as a fun girls' day out and making a contest out of whoever could find the Valentine's gift first. The 3 of us walked to around where the spot should be. A quiet part of the forest here where not a lot of people walk by. As it is not a hiker's path and there is nothing to really do or see except a flat clearing with some water and trees sprinkled here and there. I don't think I have seen people come by here at all when I have been here. Because as I said, there is nothing there to see or do. So it was kinda unsurprised when I saw about 10 men standing around talking with each other there. It felt kinda awkward searching for probably nothing with all those people around, and at this point I was thinking of just going home again and just try to make myself forget about everything. Edit 1. People have said this was suspicious, and honestly, even with me wanting to be done with this and like roll over or hire a pie somehow, you all have convinced me that I shouldn't give up, at least yet. No matter how much I want to. I guess just pull a little more. It began being even more awkward when I felt people staring at me and sometimes even blatantly doing so. Suffice to say, we didn't find anything and I felt like the biggest, thinking I had finally lost my mind. After some more walking around the forest afterwards, we decided to go home again, and on our way back saw the youngest drinking friend of my husband. And to my shock, he actually began the conversation with me for the first time. He asked me how I had been and told me he was here for some late night fishing that he does here from time to time. It honestly felt nice just having a small conversation for once with one of them. About 5 minutes of talking later he left, and my GFs asked me if that was one of them. I said yes, and was surprised that he, for the first time mind you, actually talked to me first. And asked me how I was doing and just basic stuff like that. Edit 2. People have said this was super sus. I agree. I was so happy that one of them finally talked to me of his own accord while feeling he was interested into talking with me that I let this get to my head too much. I want to believe this was genuine. But with so many people saying it was not, I'm beginning to feel I was a fool for thinking so. Old text. It made me feel even worse though at the same time, because I felt everything that I thought could be weird or a bad thing that my husband could be doing was just all in my head. Saturday came along and my husband anxious the whole day. He then told me it was because he had gotten into a verbal fight with his friends over a disagreement over something and that they wouldn't show up anytime soon if ever again. And sure enough, for the first time aside from us not being there, they didn't show up. Edit 3. At the time this felt unreal with how much they had always come, so I began to feel I was just making it all up. But seeing as so many people tell me otherwise makes me feel that doing it alone and stressing so much is maybe what makes it all feel even more crazy than it is. And makes me not want to accept it. That there definitely is something here. My husband and I snuggled under the blanket while watching a movie together Saturday. And honestly nothing more has happened since then. Edit 4. Honestly, I'm tired of trying to play detective and the strain I have put on myself. Still, I'm thankful for all of you making me feel at least not crazy. I want to believe so bad that nothing is up and it is all in my head. It is like placing a placebo effect on yourself. Making what you think is real actually real to you. TLDR, weird stuff happening in the forest and probably back on trying to find the solution of what my husband, 25M, has been doing on Saturday night. 24F. Something is still not right. You found their hidden spot. His friend saw you and talked to because he wanted to know what you were doing there. He then reported back to your husband and they've decided to cool it for a while. They will probably start up again soon, maybe a month or so. You are on to them, so he's being all cuddly with you so you'll let it go. Sounds like they meet for vigorous dirty fishing sessions and your hubby has been scolded for putting them at risk with you knowing their spot. It sounds like this place in the woods is a hookup spot. His friend saw you there and freaked out, hence them getting into a fight right after. Would also track with the random houses you found in his navigation app hookups. It definitely does not mean you have nothing to worry about here. Hire the private investigator. Wow. I think you blew the case wide open, but now you're blowing it off as nothing. That's almost bizarre. This sounds like either a group, or certainly something illicit and/or illegal. You busted them. Now your husband is persona non grata because they saw you there, obviously tracking him. He's kicked out and likely on the outs with them / in trouble for letting you track him and being suspicious. And your attitude from this update and responses I'm seeing so far is just oh well, it's stressing me out wondering, so I'm going to skip along and hum loudly and ignore everything until my husband makes up a story that I can't wait to believe. Until the next thing happens. Good luck, truly. What were the men doing? How were they dressed? Do you think running into one of the drinking friends at the marked spot is a coincidence? Is it possible that you showing up and being seen by one of them is the reason this Saturday ritual is being called off? So many questions. LOL, husband def doing some good OLE fashioned butt fucking in the woods with the homies. So, you didn't tell your friends the truth, you said it was a Valentine's scavenger hunt. But why then did one of your friends even know to ask? Was that one of them? Regardless, I'm invested and excited to know what is to come. LOL. I don't think what happened this weekend makes what your husband has been doing, staying out all night every single Saturday, less weird. I'll say it again. This is still sketchy as. Also pretty crazy coincidence your husband had a sudden fight with these friends after you spotted them in their weird hangout spot. He was there fishing? You seen his and his 10 friends fishing gear around? There'd be quite a bit of it if they were all there fishing. OP, no beating around the bush here. In and around my city and others, worldwide, there are parks and secluded areas men meet to hook up. This sounds like such a place. It's dark, kinda anonymous, and you hook up with whoever is available. No need for plans or communication beforehand. His friend approached you, BC you're not supposed to be there. And you're his special friend's wife who shouldn't be nosing around where she's not supposed to. He was fishing to see what you knew. He told your husband and that's why he's stressed and didn't go. He's not going to broach it with you, BC. He wants to stay in denial that you may have figured out he's into men. I'm sorry, but the fact that you saw this friend in the park and now your husband has gotten into a fight with them sounds off. I know you want to put this behind you, but I think you need to know what is really going on. My suggestion, do a Google/police search to see if any arrests have been made in that park in the last few years, see what type of illegal activity generally goes on there, especially at night. Also, for your peace of mind, you can make your profile private so people won't be able to send you DMs. Right, I've also been waiting for an update, never'd met you though not to pester you. Also shared this with my wife and she's been eagerly awaiting the continuation too. We were both discussing this story and thinking of different scenarios as to how this would end. I find it extremely weird that you just concluded everything has always been normal and you just let it go after the events described here. If anything, this event of meeting that guy friend and then these friends completely cutting ties with your husband would have made me more suspicious. So much more suspicious. Bear in mind I am not discounting the possibility that it was all in your mind, I'm just baffled that you did a 180 after these events described. If this is a real story, please do not stop inquiring. If things happened as you described them in these 3 threads, this was not just a regular friendship that ended, and your husband was either doing something illegal or cheating on you. It would be in your best interest to find out which. So once again, here are my hypotheses in order from the most likely to the least likely. 1. This whole story arc has always been made up and you just did a lazy job with the ending. Maybe because you thought other options would be too unbelievable? Maybe you didn't want potential legal trouble? Maybe you just burnt out creatively? 2. Your husband is great at gaslighting and manipulation and managed to convince you nothing weird happened at all. And you were just relieved that it's over. 3. That friend that you met actually managed to somehow convince you to drop your investigation. Either by bribery, coercion, blackmail, or some other means. He possibly found out about these threads and told you to write this ending to make people stop being interested, which could potentially reveal their shady dealings. 4. OP found out the truth and is already dead. The thread was actually written by the husband and his new friends to cover it up. Will we ever know the truth and the continuation of the story? Who knows, I'd personally love to. It's exactly this. They will find a new spot now and the husband will be more careful about where they meet up. All the times you've asked to go and the time you went was a distraction night. He probably gave them a heads up and they went to a bar to pretend to drink. Your man is out in the woods with a group of men to either them or do some weird tribal dance in the moonlight, but I'm gonna lean towards woodland. Yep. They were meeting to hook up. There was a known spot like this at my college. I went once unknowingly for a hike and got lots of looks from random men. Found out later this was a spot for guys to go meet other guys and hook up. Yup, they're just fishing in the dark. Which is defined by Urban Dictionary means laying on your back outside at night performing mutual with your partner. And now they know she knows their spot. He might not be invited again. Interested to know if he goes drinking again next week. I read fishing as at first, have to say I would think that's probably near the mark. That was definitely where my thoughts went, too. I agree. That was my suspicion after reading the first post, and now the 10 men gathered together in the woods and the excommunication after his wife shows up. It's 100% a hookup spot for men, and OP doesn't seem to want look into it any further. OP, if he's doing this, and with his friends but also multiple strangers every week, there are things you need to be doing to protect yourself from a health perspective. You will need to get tested ASAP. It's never easy being lied to, but it's time to face the reality of this, you and your husband both. 100% this makes the most sense to me. It also tracks if the younger friend texted the husband and said, "Hey, saw your wife at the spot in the woods." Cue husband's panic and anxiousness and the sudden fight with those friends. Suddenly they won't be hanging out anymore. He knew he was about to get busted. Yet or spot. I'm just imagining her looking all around this place, moving big burly men aside. "Oh, excuse me, weird. There's nothing here for me to find." "No, girl. You found it." "I'm leaning towards drugs tbh. 10 guys is a lot of people in the middle of the day for fishing. You nailed it even harder than those dudes are nailing him." This got me too. About 5 minutes of talking later he left and my GFs asked me if that was one of them. One of what? The Valentine's Day gifts the GFs thought they were looking for? Oof. 4 Been looking for holes in the story to see if it's legit or not, and you just might have found one, lol. Yo, OP. They do not mean actual fishing, you get that, right? It honestly sounds more like https://www.dictionary.com/browse/sfw. Men don't stand together in groups of 10, but voyeurs sure do. The friend might have been trying to suss whether she was there for that or if she was just playing detective. Yeah, the 10 men standing together sounds way more like to me. Maybe check online for dogging spots nearby or exactly at that spot in the forest. Because that is what this sounds like. The houses might be from Grindr or a similar app. Not saying it's 100% certain, but I really can't imagine it's anything else. I mean, it could be a fight club? Which would explain why he's not talking about it, but he is missing the telltale black eyes and bruises, so. Maybe also take an STD test for your own peace of mind. Random with strangers is pretty risky, if it is that. Your husband is men in the woods, it's called cruising, and you're more in denial than he is in the closet. Get tested. It honestly sounds like you're a little bit in denial. Something is seriously off with your husband. Why not in drugs? The whole point of secret meetings in the woods is that wives/GFs don't know about it. You now know. The whole point of meeting in the woods to conduct illegal activities is that others don't know about it. You now know. So your husband is now a risk to whatever is going on there. You cannot be that dense. You found the spot you know he goes, and lies about going. You busted a bunch of people there, including one of the guys who picks him up. This guy very uncharacteristically comes over and speaks to you. Trying to ferret out what you've seen, what do you know? And you think, how nice that he's talking to me finally. Then suddenly your husband is freaked out and upset Saturday cause he's on the outs and doesn't get to do whatever he used to do with these guys. And you're telling me, hey, what did I discover? I'm starting to suspect now this isn't real because I don't want to believe you can just be like, sigh, it's all over, everything is good now, SMH. Did they have fishing gear with them? Like, generally it's pretty obvious when a person is going fishing. If you didn't look at this circle of men and think fishing, they weren't fishing. It is not a coincidence that your husband immediately stopped hanging out with these people once one of them saw you at the spot. It's concerning that you think all of this is normal. Can't tell if that's sarcasm, smiling face with open mouth and cold sweat, but no one had their pants down. So I remember parking in a spot to eat my McDonald's. I didn't know at the time. Random men kept jumping out the bushes behind and standing to watch at my window whilst I side-eyed them confused and chewed. Googled the place when I got back. Obs didn't hang around, which was annoying cause it was cold when I got in. Yep, spot. Sigh, removes glasses, rubs bridge of nose. The fishing gear is a cover story with props for when people, you, strangers etc., see them so they can say what they're doing. Did you see any fishing equipment? Anyone actually fishing? Or even a body of water to fish from? I think the biggest red flag is what happened on Saturday after you ran into the friend the day before. Your husband has been going with them every Saturday up to this point. You say he barely talks to them via phone unless it's to confirm they are on their way. So what exactly would they be fighting about? The only thing that has changed is that his friend saw you in the forest. It's too big of a coincidence. I think it's fairly obvious something is going on here. I refuse to make assumptions about what exactly that is, but there is something. So please don't convince yourself otherwise. Personally, I would confront my husband and make it seem like I know something is going on in the forest. See how he reacts. I'm sure that's cover for anyone else who happens upon them for their story. Funny he'd be anxious to show it to you. They literally have you hook, line and sinker, but as you said yourself, they weren't dressed for fishing. If they were just fishing, why doesn't your husband say that's what he's doing? Wake up. OP is in some next level denial here. Literally no one thinks they are fishing for fish except OP. I'm not saying the guy was anxious, what I meant was he made an unusual point of saying and showing you unnecessarily, see, hey Ray's fishing gear, see my cover story, look at this fishing gear. Right, he's always been cold and standoffish before, now suddenly he's like, welcome friend, I am here fishing, behold my fishing hook. Come on.